My friends, welcome back. I want to begin today by saying something that I know many of you will understand the moment I say it. There is a particular kind of love in this world that asks nothing in return. It gives quietly, it suffers silently, and it never stops. It does not announce itself. It does not keep score. It simply continues, year after year, decade after decade, pouring itself out for the people it loves most. That love has a name. It is called a parent's love. And if you are watching this today, chances are you have given that love for most of your life. You gave it when your children were small and needed you for everything. You gave it when they were young and difficult and testing every boundary you tried to hold. You gave it when they became adults and walked out into the world and started building lives of their own. You gave and you gave and you gave. And now here you are. Older. Perhaps a little tired. Perhaps a little quieter than you used to be. Perhaps sitting in a house that used to be full of noise and now feels different. Changed. Strangely still. And even now, even at this stage of your life, I suspect you are still giving. Still thinking about your children first. Still asking yourself what more you can do for them, what more you can offer, what more you can sacrifice so that their lives might be a little easier, a little better, a little more comfortable. My friends, I understand that impulse completely. I have felt it myself. But today I want to have a gentle, honest conversation with you. Not a harsh one. Not a lecture. Simply the kind of conversation that one older person has with another when they trust each other enough to speak the truth. Because the truth is this. There are certain sacrifices that parents make for their adult children that do not actually help anyone. They do not strengthen the relationship. They do not make your children's lives genuinely better. And they do not honor the life that you have worked so hard to build over all these many years. In fact, some of these sacrifices slowly take things from you that can never be replaced. Your health. Your peace. Your savings, your sense of self, your remaining years. And I believe, with everything I have learned from a long life of loving my own family, that you deserve to know what those sacrifices are before you make them. Or if you have already begun making them, perhaps today is the day you give yourself permission to reconsider. I want to be very clear about something before we begin. Nothing I say today is meant to tell you to stop loving your children. Nothing I say is meant to suggest that families should not support one another or that parents and adult children should live as strangers. That is not what I believe, and it is not what I am here to say. What I am here to say is simpler and perhaps more important than that. You matter too. Your needs matter. Your health matters. Your remaining years matter. Your peace of mind matters. And there is a difference, a very important difference, between loving your children generously and sacrificing yourself in ways that ultimately leave everyone worse off. Today, I want to talk about 5 of those sacrifices. 5 things that older parents commonly give up for their adult children that they should never give up. 5 places where the love is real but the cost is too high. Take what speaks to you. Leave what does not. You know your life better than anyone else. But I hope that somewhere in these words you find a little permission to protect yourself. Because you have spent a lifetime protecting everyone else. Perhaps it is time someone reminded you that you are worth protecting too. Let us begin. My friends, let me start with the one that I believe causes more heartbreak in old age than almost anything else. Money. I know that is a difficult word to say in the same breath as the word family. We are taught from the time we are very young that love and money should not be mixed together. That true love gives freely. That family does not keep score. That when someone you love needs help, you open your hand without hesitation and you give. And I do not disagree with any of that, not entirely. But I want to tell you something that I have seen happen to too many good people. People who work their entire lives carefully and honestly. People who save slowly, year by year, setting aside small amounts so that their later years might be peaceful. People who sacrificed many pleasures when they were young so that when they were old, they might not have to depend on anyone. I have seen these same people, in their 70s and 80s, with no savings left. Not because they were careless. Not because they were foolish. But because they gave it away. Piece by piece. Year by year, to their adult children. A loan that was never repaid. A down payment on a house. Monthly help with bills that became permanent. Grandchildren's school fees taken on as a personal obligation. Retirement savings slowly drained until one day there was nothing left. And then something happened that no one planned for. A health crisis. An unexpected expense. A moment when they needed help themselves. And they had nothing to fall back on. Nothing they had built for themselves remained. My friends, I want you to sit with that image for a moment, because I have seen the look on an older person's face when they realize they have nothing left, when they understand that the security they spent decades building has been given away. And the most painful part, The thing that breaks my heart every time I have witnessed it is that they almost always say the same thing. They say, "I do not regret helping my children, but I wish someone had stopped me before I gave everything." Giving your children money when they are adults is not always wrong. Let me be clear about that. There are moments of genuine crisis when a parent's help is a beautiful and necessary thing. When someone loses a job unexpectedly, when a medical emergency strikes, when there is a true and temporary need, then a parent who can help and chooses to help is doing something loving and good. But there is a profound difference between helping during a crisis and quietly becoming responsible for your adult child's lifestyle. There is a difference between a one-time gift and a permanent financial arrangement that slowly empties your retirement savings. There is a difference between helping your child get on their feet and carrying them so long that they forget how to stand on their own. And here is something that is difficult to say but important to hear. When you give so much that you leave yourself with nothing, you do not actually protect your children. You create a new problem. Because now, if you face a health crisis, if you need care, if you reach a point where you cannot fully care for yourself, you become dependent on the very people you were trying to help. And that weight, the weight of an aging parent who has no resources and needs significant care, can be genuinely crushing for adult children, even the loving ones. The most generous thing you can do for your children in old age is to ensure that you can take care of yourself. Your retirement savings are not selfish. They are protection. They are the quiet gift that says to your children, "You do not have to worry about me. I have taken care of myself so that you can take care of your own life." Please, my friends, be generous with your love. Be thoughtful with your money. And never give so much that you leave yourself standing on nothing. Your financial security is not a luxury. At your age, it is a lifeline. And it belongs to you. The second sacrifice I want to talk about today is one that happens so slowly, so quietly, that many people do not even realize it is happening until the damage has already been done. It is the sacrifice of your own physical health. Now, you might be wondering what helping your adult children has to do with your health. Let me explain. When adult children have children of their own, which is to say when you become a grandparent, something beautiful happens. You fall in love again. Perhaps in a way you did not expect. You look at that small face and something ancient and powerful wakes up inside you, and suddenly you would do anything for that child. And your own children, your adult sons and daughters, they see that love. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, they begin to lean on it in ways that are not fair to you. Full-time childcare. Not occasional babysitting, not a special afternoon here and there, but full-time, every day, from early morning to evening, caring for young grandchildren while your adult children work or pursue other parts of their lives. Cooking daily meals for an entire extended household. Managing a home that now holds multiple generations and multiple sets of needs. Running errands, handling appointments, being constantly on call and always available. My friends, I want to ask you something gently. When did you last rest? When did you last wake up in the morning with no obligations waiting for you before you had even finished your first cup of tea? When did you last spend an afternoon doing something simply because it brought you joy, not because someone needed something from you? The human body at 60, at 70, at 80, is not the same body it was at 35. This is not a weakness. This is simply the truth of being alive. We change. Our energy changes. Our capacity changes. Our need for rest becomes more important, not less, as we grow older. And yet I have met so many older parents who are more physically exhausted than they have ever been in their lives. Not because of their own choices, but because they have become the primary support system for their entire family. Because they said yes when they should have said "I love you, but I cannot do this every day." Because they believed that being a good grandparent meant having no limits. Let me tell you what happens to a body that is constantly tired and never allowed to fully rest. It begins to break down. The small aches that could have been managed with rest become chronic pain. The sleep that was already lighter in old age becomes more disrupted. The immune system, which already works differently in an aging body, becomes less effective. The stress of constant responsibility raises cortisol, affects the heart, disrupts digestion, shortens sleep, and quietly, steadily, wears away at the foundation of your physical health. And then, one day, something happens. A fall. A diagnosis. A moment when the body finally says what the person was never allowed to say. Enough. I cannot continue like this. And everyone is shocked. How did this happen so suddenly? But it was not sudden. It was the accumulation of many years of a person being asked to give more than their body could sustain. My friends, loving your grandchildren is one of the great gifts of old age. Being present in their lives, sharing your wisdom and your warmth with them, having a relationship with them, these are beautiful things that I would never ask you to give up. But you are a grandparent. You are not a paid caregiver working full-time hours with no days off and no compensation. And you are not required to sacrifice your physical health on the altar of being needed. You are allowed to help when you can. You are allowed to rest when you must. You are allowed to say, with love and without guilt, that you have limits. That you are a human being with a body that needs care and rest and attention. In fact, I would argue that protecting your health is one of the most loving things you can do for your family. Because a grandparent who is healthy enough to actually be present, who has energy to sit and talk and laugh and share stories, is worth infinitely more to your grandchildren than a grandparent who is exhausted, unwell, and quietly disappearing under the weight of too much responsibility. Take care of your body, my friends. It is the only one you have, and it deserves to be protected, especially by you. My friends, this third sacrifice is perhaps the most invisible of all. It does not show up on a bank statement. It does not land you in a doctor's office. But it is real. It is constant. And over time, it can take more from you than almost anything else. It is the sacrifice of your peace of mind. Let me describe something and tell me if it sounds familiar. You wake up in the morning and before you have even fully opened your eyes, the thoughts begin. Worry about your son's marriage, which has been difficult for some time now. Concern about your daughter's finances, which never seem to stabilize no matter how much you try to help. Anxiety about your grandchildren and whether they are being raised in a way that is good for them. Fear about decisions your adult children are making that you can see are not wise but that you have no power to change. You carry all of this with you throughout the day. It sits with you at the breakfast table. It follows you on your afternoon walk. It keeps you awake in the small hours of the night, running through scenarios, imagining outcomes, trying to solve problems that are not yours to solve. You have not been asked to carry any of this. No one handed it to you directly. But you picked it up anyway because you are a parent, and parents, especially loving ones, do not know how to turn off their concern for their children even when those children are fully grown adults living their own lives. I understand this completely. But my friends, I want to say something that I hope you will hear with the gentleness it is intended. Your adult children's lives are their own. Their choices, their mistakes, their struggles, their paths forward, these belong to them. Not to you. And when you make it your personal responsibility to fix every problem your adult child faces, to rescue them from every consequence of their own decisions, to carry the emotional weight of every difficulty in their life as though it were your crisis to solve, you're not helping them. You are actually, quietly, doing them harm. Because here is what happens when a parent is always there to cushion every fall. The adult child never fully learns that they can handle difficulty on their own. They never discover the deep confidence that comes from facing a hard situation, navigating it imperfectly, and realizing at the end that they survived. That they are stronger than they thought. That they have resources inside themselves they had not yet discovered. That discovery is one of the most important gifts of adult life. And when a parent's anxiety and constant intervention stands between an adult child and that discovery, the parent is not protecting their child. They are preventing their child from becoming fully themselves. And in the meantime, the parent is destroying their own peace. I want to offer you something today. A reframing that helped me greatly in my own later years. Your job as a parent of adult children is not to solve their problems. Your job is to love them. To be available when they genuinely need you. To offer your wisdom when it is asked for. To be a stable, peaceful presence in their lives that they can come to when things get hard. You cannot do any of those things well if you are consumed by worry. If you are constantly anxious, constantly interfering, constantly trying to manage outcomes that are not in your control. Peace of mind is not selfishness. Peace of mind is the condition that allows you to be genuinely present, genuinely helpful, and genuinely loving. Stop carrying what is not yours to carry. Set it down gently. Breathe. Trust that you raised people who have more strength than you sometimes give them credit for. And protect your peace, my friends. It is one of the most precious things you own. The fourth sacrifice I want to speak about today is one that often begins with the most loving of intentions and ends with a quiet grief that nobody talks about openly. It is the sacrifice of your personal space and your independence. Perhaps this situation is familiar to you. Perhaps you have experienced it, or perhaps you know someone who has. An adult child falls on difficult times. A divorce, a job loss, a financial crisis of some kind. And they come home. They move back in with you. And of course you say yes, because you love them, because you have room, because you cannot imagine turning away your own child in a moment of need. This is understandable. This is human. In many cases, this is the right thing to do. But then weeks become months. Months become years. The temporary arrangement quietly becomes permanent. Your home, which was finally yours in a way it had not been since your children were small, is no longer yours in the same way. Your routines have shifted. Your quiet mornings are gone. Your ability to move through your own space freely and according to your own rhythm has been gently replaced by the constant management of someone else's presence, someone else's needs, and sometimes someone else's mood. Or perhaps it is a different version of the same story. Perhaps you did not take anyone in, but your adult child has strong opinions about how you should live, how you should spend your money, where you should go and when, who you should spend time with, whether your home is organized correctly, whether your choices are wise enough. And gradually, without quite meaning to let it happen, you find yourself asking permission in your own home, second-guessing your own decisions, dimming your preferences to avoid conflict, living smaller than you should be living because someone else has slowly taken up too much of the space, not just the physical space, but the emotional and psychological space of your daily life. My friends, let me say this clearly and with great tenderness. You have earned your independence. You spent decades, many decades, organizing your life around other people's needs. When your children were young, this was necessary and right. Children need their parents to be available, consistent, and present in a way that genuinely requires self-sacrifice. But those years are over now. You are older. Your children are grown. And you deserve to live in your own home, in your own way, according to your own preferences, without having to justify your choices to the people you once raised from infancy. This does not mean you cannot welcome family. It does not mean you cannot help in a crisis. It does not mean your home should be closed to the people you love. It means that your home is yours. Your routines are yours. Your daily life is yours. And no adult child, no matter how much you love them, has the right to take that from you simply because the relationship of parent and child once meant that you organized everything around their needs. That relationship has changed. It must change. Because you have changed. Because they have changed. Because time moves forward and healthy families move with it. There is a version of family closeness that is warm and mutual and genuinely beautiful, where adult children and older parents remain connected and supportive without anyone losing themselves, where visits are something to look forward to rather than something to endure, where love is expressed through respect rather than through control. That is the version I hope you have. And if you do not have it yet, perhaps today is a small beginning. Hold on to your space, my friends. Hold on to your independence. They took a long time to earn and they deserve to be protected. You are not a guest in your own life. Do not let anyone make you feel that way. My friends, we have arrived at the fifth and final sacrifice. And I have to tell you honestly that this is the one that sits most heavily on my heart. Because this one is the most invisible. It is the one that people are least likely to talk about. It is the one that older parents are least likely to admit, even to themselves. It is the sacrifice of your remaining dreams. Let me ask you something personal, and I hope you will sit with the question honestly. Is there something you always wanted to do with your life that you have not yet done? A place you always wanted to visit but never went to because there was never enough money, never enough time, always something else that needed to come first. A skill you always wanted to learn. A creative gift you always wanted to explore. A way of living, quieter, more thoughtful, more connected to nature or to art or to community, that you always imagined you would one day grow into. Was there a version of yourself that you planned to finally become once the children were grown and the responsibilities were lighter? And now you are here. The children are grown. And somehow that version of yourself is still waiting. Still waiting because there is still so much to be done for everyone else. Still waiting because your adult children still need things, or at least they have come to expect things, that seem to make your own desires feel secondary. Still waiting because somewhere along the way you absorbed the belief that wanting things for yourself, at your age, in your season of life, is somehow not quite appropriate. As though your dreams had an expiration date. As though the part of you that wanted to grow and experience and discover things quietly closed up shop when your children became adults, and now your only remaining purpose is to serve the generation that came after you. My friends, I want to say this as gently and as firmly as I know how to say anything. That belief is wrong. You are not finished. You have not arrived at the end of your story. You have arrived at a chapter that most people, when they were young and busy and overwhelmed, did not have time to write. You have arrived at the chapter where, perhaps for the first time in your adult life, you have some measure of freedom to ask yourself what you actually want. Not what your children need. Not what your family expects. Not what you feel obligated to provide. What do you want? What would make your remaining years feel rich and meaningful and genuinely yours? I have met older people who had dreams they set aside when life got complicated and who, in their later years, finally returned to those dreams, and what they found waiting for them there was extraordinary. Not the dreams themselves, exactly, because time changes things, but the aliveness that comes from pursuing something that matters to you. The sense of purpose that belongs only to you. The private satisfaction of saying, I am still becoming someone. My story is still being written. I have also met older people who gave up everything for their adult children, their time, their money, their energy, their independence, and finally, in the quiet and lonely aftermath, their dreams. And what I saw in those people was a particular kind of sadness. A resignation. A looking back that was more regret than memory. Do not let that be your story. Your adult children have their whole lives ahead of them. They have time to build, to try, to fail, to recover, to begin again. They are in the season of becoming. But you are in a different season. A season that has its own beauty, its own richness, its own invitation. And this season will not last forever. Please do not spend it entirely in service of the generation behind you, while the life that was meant to be yours passes quietly overhead like clouds you were too busy to look up and see. Travel if you can. Create if you feel called to. Learn what you always wanted to learn. Rest deeply and without apology. Build friendships that nourish you. Pursue the mornings and the afternoons and the evenings that feel like yours. You owe your children your love. You have given that completely and you will give it always. But you do not owe them your dreams. Those belong to you. And they are still waiting. My friends, let us sit together for a moment before we say goodbye. We have talked today about 5 sacrifices. 5 things that older parents commonly give away for their adult children that they should hold on to more carefully. Financial security. Physical health. Peace of mind. Personal space and independence. And remaining dreams. I want to be very clear, one final time, about what I am not saying. I am not saying that you should stop loving your children. I am not saying that family does not matter or that older parents and adult children should live as strangers on opposite sides of a wall. I am not saying that sacrifice is always wrong or that helping your children is something you should feel guilty about. What I am saying is something quieter and perhaps more personal than that. I am saying that you matter. That your needs are real. That your health has value. That your peace deserves protection. That your independence was hard-won and is worth keeping. That your dreams, even now, even at this age, are not foolish or irrelevant or too late. I am saying that loving your children well, in this season of your life, does not require you to disappear. It does not require you to hollow yourself out on their behalf. It does not require you to trade away the years that remain to you in exchange for the approval or the comfort or the convenience of people who are fully grown and capable of managing their own lives. There is a version of a family where the older generation is respected, where their wisdom is valued, where their limits are honored, where their independence is protected, and where love flows in both directions, not just upward from parent to child forever, but back and forth between people who genuinely care for one another's well-being. That is the kind of family relationship I hope you have, or that you are moving toward. And if there are changes you need to make to get there, gentle ones, honest ones, loving ones, I hope today gives you a little more courage to begin making them. You have spent so much of your life thinking about everyone else. Today, for just a moment, I wanted to think about you. Because you deserve that. Because your life has value. Because the years ahead of you, however many they are, however they unfold, are still a gift. Still an opportunity. Still a chance to wake up in the morning and be glad you are here. Do not spend those years on sacrifices that cost everything and change nothing. Give your love freely. Give your wisdom generously. Give your presence as the gift that it is. But keep yourself. Keep your health. Keep your savings. Keep your peace. Keep your home. Keep your dreams. You are not just someone's parent. You are a whole person. A full person. A person who has lived deeply and learned much and still has so much left to discover. Remember that. And take very good care of yourself, my dear friends. Thank you so much for sitting with me today, for giving me this time, for listening with such patience, and for trusting me with a small part of your day. It means more than I can say to know that somewhere out there, someone is listening. Someone is nodding. Someone is perhaps feeling a little less alone in what they carry. I hope something in these words brought you a little more peace, a little more permission, a little more belief that you are worth protecting, worth caring for, and worth the kindness that perhaps you have given so freely to everyone else but have sometimes forgotten to give to yourself. Take your time with these ideas. There is no rush. Real change happens slowly, gently, one small decision at a time. And you do not have to change everything today. But perhaps today you plant one small seed. One moment of choosing yourself. One gentle boundary. One dream you allow yourself to remember. One night of rest you actually take. That is enough. That is more than enough. That is a beginning. Until we meet again here, stay safe, my friends. Stay healthy. Stay peaceful. Enjoy the simple beauty of the days that are given to you. Drink your tea slowly. Sit in the sunlight when you can. Call someone who makes you smile. And remember, always remember, that your life is still precious, still meaningful, still full of mornings worth waking up to. This is eternal flame wisdom. And I will see you again soon. Take good care.